Hello dear students, I hope you are fine and doing well. Now in this chapter 5 in our textbook, we are going to talk about unemployment, another important indicator in economics. Firstly, we should review some of our main concepts in our previous lectures. In our first chapter, we talked about macroeconomics overall, what is known as macroeconomics, what is the difference between micro and macro. Then in the next chapter we started to talk about production and how to measure total production in an economy using GDP. Then in the last chapter, our previous chapter, we talked about inflation and how to measure inflation. Now in this chapter number 5, we are talking about unemployment. To outline our chapter, we have two main points in this chapter. First, we are going to talk about how to measure unemployment rate, and then what are the different types of unemployment. So let's start with the measurement of unemployment. We cannot say that all those who are unemployed in any country will be computed in the official unemployment rate. There are some conditions for anyone to be considered unemployed. So unemployment is largely related to the state of the labor market in any economy. We cannot say that all those who are unemployed will be counted in the official unemployment rate. Thus, we will start with the definition of different labor market concepts such as the working age population and labor force in order to revise unemployment rate. So now, we are going to start with the population of any economy until we reach to those who will be considered unemployed. So first of all, what do we mean by the working age population? From its name we can say that we are talking about what? We are talking about all those who are in the working age, all those who are able to join the labor market. So, the working age population is the number of people between 16 years and 64 years old who are available for work. Of course, all those below 16 years old will be considered children, and all those above 64 years old will be considered retired. So we can say that the working age population includes those who are in the labor force and those who are not in the labor force. So the working age population excludes those who are below 16 years old or above 64 years old, in addition to those who are in jail, in prison, or hospitals. Of course, all those in jail or hospitals who are not able to work will not be considered apart from the working age population. Now, let's turn to another concept. So what do we mean by labor force? We mean by the labor force anyone who has three main conditions. Number one, this one should be able to work. Number two, willing to work. And number three, searching for a job. If someone lacks any of these three conditions, this one will not be considered apart from the labor force. So we can say that labor force is the total number of people who are able to work, willing to work, and searching for a job. Thus, the labor force includes both the employed and the unemployed. So if someone was able to work, willing to work, and searching for a job, and found a job, this one will be considered employed. Vice versa, if someone was able to work, willing to work, and searching for a work, but did not find a job, this one will be considered unemployed. Thus, labor force excludes the disabled or those who are not able to work for any reason, maybe a health condition or something related to general health or mental health. Full-time students, here we mean students who are giving all their time to studying, and housewives, here we mean your mother if your mother decided not to work. So we can say that unemployment is what? Unemployment is the state in which people who are able to work, willing to work, and search for a job did not have jobs. In this way, unemployment rate is the number of the unemployed as a percentage of labor force. So here we have the formula. Unemployment rate equals number of unemployed divided by labor force times 100 to get the percentage of unemployed. In addition to unemployment rate, we have also some other important labor market indicators like what? Employment to population ratio and the labor force participation rate. So let's start with the employment to population ratio. Employment to population ratio is the percentage of working age population who are employed. So here we are talking about all those who are part of the working age and who found a job, who are considered employed. This indicator is important. Why? Because this indicator shows the job availability in the economy. When this rate or this ratio increases, this means that more and more jobs are available in the economy. So employment to population ratio equals number of employed divided by working age population times 100. Labor force. What about participation rate? It is the percentage of the working age population who are members in the labor force. So labor force participation rate equals labor force divided by working age population times 100. Now this indicator is also important. Why? Because it shows the percentage of those in the working age who are willing to enter the labor force, who are still in the labor force searching for a job. Then let's move to an example. Example page 68 in our textbook. Given the following labor market figures, we have population 200 million, working age population 100 million, labor force 90 million, and number of employed persons 75 million. Then what is required? Calculate the unemployment rate, employment to population ratio, and labor force participation rate. To be able to answer this example, let's start with the labor force and its relation to employed and unemployed. We know that labor force includes both employed and unemployed. So labor force is equal to the sum of employed and unemployed. Thus, we can say that unemployed equals labor force minus employed. Labor force 90 million minus employed 75 million. So here we get the number of unemployed is equal to 15 million. Now we can calculate the unemployment rate. Unemployment rate equals what? Number of unemployed 15 million divided by labor force 90 million times 100, which is equal to 16.67%. So we can say now that 16.67% out of the labor force are unemployed. Let's turn to our next indicator. Employment to population ratio equals what? Number of employed divided by working age population times 100. So it is equal to 75 divided by 100 times 100, which is equal to 75%. So we can conclude that 75% of the working age population are employed. And finally, labor force participation rate equals what? Labor force divided by working age population times 100, which is equal to 90 divided by 100 times 100 equal to 90%. Therefore, 90% of the working age population are still in the labor force. Of course, you can notice here that labor force participation rate 90%, while employment to population ratio is 75%. So labor force participation rate is higher than employment to population ratio. What is the reason for that? Of course, the reason is that labor force participation rate includes labor force. Labor force in itself includes employed and unemployed, whereas employment to population ratio takes into account only those who are employed. Thanks so much.